The latest of those is Mr. Randy Brown. He's the publisher of the Bossier Parish Tribune. Hey, Mr. Randy, Merry Christmas. Welcome to Kiel. How you doing today?
Good morning, Robert. Merry Christmas.
Randy, your whole post, it's that we've shared, it's April Fool's joke or something, correct?
Well, that's the way it struck me, Aaron. Since this was posted on our website and Facebook page yesterday, I've had a ton of emails, ton of phone calls. Appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. But, yeah, that's the way it struck me. Like I said, or started out my column with, it kind of brought me to tears.
Excuse me a second, Mr. Randy. Let's go back to sort of the beginning, because a lot of folks are not aware of this, and you and Aaron can kind of team up, go back and forth, and bring folks up to the present time with this Bossier School story, specifically Airline High School.
It's the Airline High School newspaper that you publish, but you got a call to stop the presses on the December issue. Tell us why.
Yes, last Tuesday, their original submission had a front page with a Christmas tree on it that had snowflake ornaments, and the focal point of the photo was a young lady placing an ornament on the tree that said, "I love Jesus." And as it turns out, that's the whole problem. And please, I want to make this clear. I'm not trying to, I fully support the school board. Our newspaper fully supports the school board. My point in my column is that they are kind of boxed in, and I don't want to see the Bossier Parish school system or any school system, if you will. Bossier's boxed in, and of course, as we all know from some federal court decisions that were handed down over the last few years, and it's just a shame that we're in this position. I'm not a constitutional law attorney. I have a good friend that we've all seen on national TV. I'm not going to name any names, but we all know of the last few weeks who is, and certainly somebody like that could defend the First Amendment and the Constitution a lot better than me. But, the Constitution says, especially the Establishment Clause, that the government is not to establish any religion or establishment of religion. And I've always taken that to mean that it can't tell you that everyone has to be one religion. I mentioned that in my column.
But if nothing else, in this case, the Airline High folks, the Bossier Parish school folks, they were kind of playing it safe, right? And can you blame?
Yes,
and you can't blame them for that.
I mentioned that in my column. I do not blame them. They had no choice. But my point is, it's just a shame that the Bossier Parish schools or any school system, if you will, is in this position. I looked it up. I'm not going to act like I knew all this off the top of my head, but I looked it up. The First Amendment of the Bill of Rights was ratified, ironically, this coming Sunday. It will be 228 years. Mm. And part of the point is, too, that, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, we didn't have these problems.
Tell us about the phone call that you had. Who did you speak with? Was it the principal at Airline High School, I guess, right?
No, sir, it wasn't. We worked with a faculty advisor that is over the newspaper staff.
Okay, the faculty advisor calls you. Recount for us.
Yeah, who made the decision to run a front page that was blank?
Well, let's get to that. Tell us about the phone call. What did they say? What was your reaction? Give us a little bit of that back and forth.
Well, there wasn't any at first when this happened last Tuesday. There wasn't any initial. It was just decisions have been made. We have run it up the flagpole, so to speak. The superintendent, Mr. Downey, and the school board attorney are making a decision on what's best to do. And again, they did the right thing. I want to make that perfectly clear. They did the only thing they could do. But I got a call back Wednesday morning saying that the decision had been made not to run it as originally submitted, and that the students had decided to run a completely blank front page with nothing on it. And my question was, don't even want it to say Airline High School at the top? No, a completely white page.
So they wanted to send a message.
I told our press foreman that. He thought I was joking.
They wanted to send a message out then, clearly, because they could have moved the page. They could have moved page 2 to page 1 if they wanted, right?
Sure. But that was their way of expressing, their views. So they made a statement without making a statement, so to speak.
Mr. Randy, just to clear this up, your newspaper, your company, they don't do this gratis for Airline High School and maybe for others. You are paid, I would assume, at least a nominal sum, right?
Nominal. We give schools a tremendous discount, almost at cost, actually. So, and I want to make this clear, too. I feel a little bit guilty in that I have publicize a situation that no one would really even know about if I had not written about it in my column. But, you know, we all have things that push our buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And this pushed my buttons. And, yes, I'm emotionally reacted. I write about this kind of thing. I don't know how much y'all followed me, but I write about this kind of thing quite often in my column.
Was there ever...
I've been publisher of the newspaper for 5 years, and I feel like God has given me a platform, and I use it. And keep in mind, this is my opinion.
In the discussion that you were having with the school people, with the faculty advisor, et cetera, and the students, I guess, themselves, was there ever any discussion about, well, maybe we could just kind of blur the Jesus word out and it would all go away?
No, sir, there wasn't. And the only person I talked to was the faculty advisor who I always have worked with these last few years, and I didn't talk to anyone else. That's it.
So in your mind, they stood pretty firm on this one. To their credit, they stood pretty firm. We are going to do it this way to bring we want people to notice what the hell's going on.
Yes, and then of course that asks you what's going on here. Why is the front page blank?
Yeah.
And I had the same opportunity with our newspaper. We, as a management leadership team 6 years ago, decided to put serving God in our country right up under our name on the front page. And I get asked, I mean, I don't do public speaking 3 or 4 times a week, but I am asked pretty frequently to speak to, you know, organizations and civic groups. And I get asked that question a lot. Why is that there? Well, we feel like, you know, as our newspaper, that's what best represents the Bossier community and represents us as a company.
Randy, we're talking to Randy Brown.
I've had people challenge me and say that you can't put that on your front page. Well, we're a private company. Yes, we can. That's what we believe.
Randy Brown is publisher of the Bossier Press Tribune. If you're hadn't followed the story, you're just joining us. The Airline High School student paper front page is blank because the original page had a picture of a young student of a student at Airline putting an ornament on a tree that said, "I love Jesus." Students themselves made the decision to run a blank page. What does that tell you, Randy, about young people today? It breathes some hope into my spirit.
Well, exactly. And I've said this, and I go to speak to the class a few times a year, you know, to give them advice and different things on how to best handle stories and what to do, you know, graphically and stuff. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to imply that, but it does. And, you know, I asked the question last year, I believe it was, when I was talking to them, how many students are going on to study journalism in college? You know, and at one time, you probably wouldn't have very many hand raised. Well, over half the class raised their hand. Now, you know, there's a lot of different forms of journalism these days. There's broadcast journalism. That didn't mean they're all going in the newspaper business, although, you know, that's what I'd personally like to see. But just the fact that one time you can see that. So we're seeing kind of an influx of that, but we're also, to get back to your question, I think it does make a very valid and good point as to what's happening with young people in our culture, in our society these days.